Hi, sewing and trifocal friends. This is going to be part 2 of the swirl skirt. In the last video, I introduced the pattern and made some general comments. Number 1, about why I was using my phone to video this. And number 2, and more importantly, about all the details and features of the pattern. It's quite a unique pattern in that it looks like, anyway, you need to follow the instructions to the T, including which direction you sew in, hanging the skirt for a few days after you sew it together so that it's completely settled before you do your hem, and all kinds of stuff. And I'm getting ready to cut my second crescent over here, so I'm going to show you the cutting process. And when I edit this on my computer, I will probably speed it up a little bit if I can. I'm not sure I can with the phone video, but hopefully you'll be indulgent and patient either way. First thing I wanted to mention, this is a giant piece of fabric, some of which is stuffed under the bed. And to make life a little bit easier for myself, I use these craft clips, or clippies as I call them, to clip them to my cutting mat, because the fabric was big and bulky and sliding around, so that helped me quite a bit to get started on pinning the pattern to the fabric. I really should fold up and put away that pattern. But anyway, as you can see here, I have put a new blade in my rotary cutter. And this is going to save my sanity. I'm not as good with scissors as I am with this thing. These are my notch nippers. You can see I got these with Sewing with Nancy. And I don't know if you can see really well, but they make just a little nip in the fabric, and theoretically they're a time saver, although I'm not used to them yet, so it's kind of a moot point at the moment, but I'm going to get cutting. The last time I made this I was a little heavier, and maybe a lot heavier, so I wound up cutting 11 crescents, and this time around hopefully I can cut less. But I don't think I can get away with 8, which is for a much smaller lady. Hopefully you're not seeing down my blouse here. It's really and truly been ages since I've cut anything on the floor. I'm having to get used to it. The last time I cut something on the floor, it was with scissors, and I had somebody's Halloween costume, one of my kids' Halloween costumes. I'm finding it a little difficult to know how much pressure to apply to cut all the way through the fabric, since I'm on my hands and knees right now. Instead of using a big cutting table, which I do not have, much better at this when I'm using a table that's the right height, like my little butcher block table that I have on the other end of the room here. But it was just so difficult with all of this fabric, and the pattern itself was bigger than the butcher block table, so I was having to turn it around all different angles, and it was kind of a hassle. So I'm hoping that I can, you know, find my rhythm here and get good at this after a while. This on the wrong side of the, I think I did. This side. I think I set my cutter up left-handed. So, one moment please. I just put a new blade in. When you have a big project, that's an important thing to do. And it'll slow you down if your blade is not cutting all the way through the fabric and you're having to use your scissors a lot. And you might as well just be using your scissors. Okay, now I did have it in the wrong way. Now I can see what I'm cutting. Something didn't feel right. I am right-handed. Okay, that's much better. I'm getting the fabric cut through. This is rather a hard floor, so I find if I sit back, it's more comfortable on my knees. This is kind of a massive undertaking, really. I'm not doing such a hot job on the floor here. Maybe scissors would have been a better option, I don't know. Oy. Careful not to stab myself with these pins either. I missed a spot there. Actually, I don't think I'm going to edit this. I'll probably just put the footage up as is, because I've been away from YouTube for a couple of weeks. And something is better than nothing when your camcorder falls off the tripod and you have to take it in to the local video repair place for your work, or I should say local appliance repair, including video. Then you have to kind of improvise. Getting up off the floor is harder when you're older. I'll show you how I use the notch nipper, which I'm not particularly expert at yet, but it seems like it would be a handy tool. Here's my notch. And I found what was best so that I could preserve my notch as I take the pin out. And first what I do is take my chalk pencil and draw a line here that's, you know, right in the middle of the notch, more or less, because this particular skirt, it's very important to match those notches. And like I mentioned, I might be needing to ease using ease stitching. So matching the notches becomes very, very important. This, I don't know what you would say, it's almost like a pair of pliers or something, but it actually, the top part is the cutting part and the bottom part receives the blade. And see here, I didn't get this quite cut all the way. Okay, now, I'm lining up that white line with the line in the bottom of the nipper. And there we go. If you can see it, let me tear this off. There is my little nip. And like I said, when you have a bigger seam allowance, like 5/8 of an inch, it's okay to nip your notches because you have plenty of space before the seam. This I learned, by the way, from Sewing with Knits, the book I'm reading right now that's from the Singer Sewing series. It was published in the 80s and early 90s. Used book I got on Amazon, and it's been extremely helpful. I love sewing with knits, but I need to understand more about them. Well, I think that's enough video for now. I'm going to go ahead and upload this to YouTube because there's going to be an awful lot more cutting. But you can see how I solved some problems and ended up cutting this out on the floor because it's an awful long piece of fabric and it was kind of dragging on itself. The part that I had up on the table was being dragged and I had to kind of cut off part of the fabric so that I could cut out my first crescent easily. And anyway, thank you all for sharing with me and for subscribing and everything. I find sewing really fulfilling, being creative. It's actually kind of healing, and also I just enjoy it. And I hope that you will too. Maybe you'll be inspired to make your own swirl skirt. Bye for now.